So for this book, the way it worked out is I only had 3 months to paint the artwork. So I wasn't gonna paint the artwork in my normal acrylic, layering and shading and all of that in 3 months. It wasn't going to happen.
Okay.
So I kind of started to think, okay, so what can I do that would be quick, that I could do quickly, that would still look great, and that I could produce in 3 months. So that's when I started experimenting with lines. Oftentimes people would tell me, Don, you do wonderful line work. You should do a book that just really focuses on your line work. So I thought what I'll do is I'll do line work, and I'll do washes.
Line and wash.
Line wash, yes.
For those of us who don't know, wash means something kind of specific in illustration jargon. What is a wash to you?
A wash to me is basically taking paint and watering it down. So I would squeeze water out of the tube and water it down, and just kind of lay the color down.
Lay the color over the line with the line dominating, I guess.
Right, loosely.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll grab one of the final covers.
Oh, okay.
It is one of the final covers because I illustrated the cover several times. So you can see them. And another thing that I did for this book was I did all the backgrounds separately from the foregrounds. And again, the only reason why I did that was because I was trying to come up with something I could do quickly. And if I came up with a background that I thought worked really well, and I screwed up the foreground, I didn't want that to happen. So I worked the two pieces separately and cut them out almost like I were doing like a scrapbooking project. You kind of see it's layered there.
Yes. And did you worked around with the shapes to make them all fit to your satisfaction?
Exactly. So I would do my sketches and then paint the pictures separately, cut them out, put them all together like a puzzle almost, layered. And then if I decided, you know what, that background's not working with the foreground, then I could easily do a new background in a half an hour and then put it back together.
I remember when you were trying out different background colors, and you had we did one of our little group critique sessions, and you were asking us and asking the students what color did they prefer for the background, because you were having trouble coming to a decision on that.
Right. I was in sort of a panic then, because I knew at that time I knew that I had 3 months to paint the pictures, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, and so and so what I learned from your students was that instead of focusing on creating a painting that might not work, to come up with this modular from your students there that day. So.
And you settled on this aqua-colored teal cover background.
I did. I had tried several backgrounds that weren't working, and my editor and we had even talked about doing computer art at one point. And that way, if something wasn't working, I could easily go back in and fix it, like in Photoshop. But I like having an actual, tangible piece of artwork in the end, and so I veered away from doing it on the computer.
Is this an acrylic wash then?
This is an acrylic wash, and something else that I did here was that once I kind of had my colors laid down, it seemed kind of flat, so I wanted to add a bit more texture. And so I went out and I got a great big denture to the brush. I don't know if I have that here, but I went out and I got a great big denture to the toothbrush, and I just would dip the brush into the paint and just kind of splatter it.
The famous splatter technique.
Splatter technique to kind of give it a certain spontaneity and randomness.
Well, you're kind of drawing an abstract subject. You're drawing music here and composition, and it feels musical.
Exactly.
Oh, the Winsor Newton Series 7.
And I am a frugal artist, so I usually buy really cheap brushes, and I'm fine to use my really cheap brushes. But then I discovered this Series 7 brush, Sable brush, and this thing was like $20.
Yep.
But it works wonderfully.
for drawing the black lines.
For drawing the black lines,
different widths.
You can go from a very, very light line to a very heavy line in one stroke, and it holds a lot of paint. And I instantly fell in love with this expensive brush and ended up buying like 4 or 5 more.
Right.
And I'll never go back.
You'll never go back. So that's how you do your lines.
I'll never go back to the cheap brushes again.
Dipping it in India ink, or
dipping it in India ink. I experimented with several types of ink. I experimented with Higgins waterproof and this Liquitex.
Okay.
And I ended up liking the Liquitex a lot better. It just spreads better. It doesn't break apart once you're laying it down.
It's waterproof ink.
It's waterproof, so I could go back over it with the watercolors, and it wouldn't wouldn't disturb the paint very much.
Wow.
And one of the things that I did was I studied some of the album covers from the 1960s. And I just came across this accidentally one day, and I thought, oh, cool. So look at the style. It's real loose and unplanned, and it has a great spontaneity about it. And I wanted to kind of capture that. This style was a little bit more loose than what I wanted to have in my painting, but I really wanted to capture some of the spontaneity of that. Then, you know, here's some more, you know, great band era. So what I liked are the really colorful.
Oh, I see the notes in there.
Yes. Then the Jungle Book. Line work.
It's full of jazz.
It just has that certain 1960s feel about it.
It does.
With the wonderful line work and the flat colors. And so
stylization.
Exactly. This is all stuff, again, that my grandfather had given me, and it just so happens that I discovered it while I was working on this project. Contacted one of my artist friends on the internet. His name is Ward Jenkins, and he gave me, and he loves and collects all of these wonderful 1960s style artwork, and he pointed to me to some famous artists of the time. And this is, you know, another, of course, now that I'm trying to remember the name of the artist, I can't, but this particular artist did some wonderful jazz album.
Jazz has a look, doesn't it?
Yes, it has a certain playful.
Yeah, playful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, you sure got it in your pieces.
So that was kind of what inspired me to work in this direction as far as style goes. And then once I knew the direction that I wanted to go in style, then it was, you know, I was able to just kind of relax and have fun with it. And I remember I was down on the floor actually working with and was splattering my paint on the page and cutting out all my pieces, and my wife came in and she says, you know what, I can really tell you're having a whole lot more fun with this project than you have with some of your past projects. And that's true. I mean, I have fun when I'm in here creating my paintings and everything, but there was just something that I was just really having a good time with this one, and hopefully that came through in my artwork.